Hey everyone, how's it going? For today's video, let's take an up-close and personal, in-depth look at one of the premier examples of 80s supercar culture, the iconic Ferrari Testarossa.
And this is going to be a detailed, in-depth review of the Testarossa. We'll start up, show the engine, get an exhaust clip, and go over the performance data, as well as show you a bunch of the unique aspects of both the interior as well as exterior.
And before we begin, I'd like to extend a big thanks and special shout out to Foreign Cars Italia, Maserati, Aston Martin of Charlotte, North Carolina for providing the Testarossa featured in today's in-depth review. For more information on the rest of their exotic inventory, check out foreigncarscharlotte.com.
And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and start her up. Let her run. The exterior of this Testarossa is finished in the classic Rosso Corsa, paired nicely with a light cream leather interior and black accenting across the doors, dash, and center console.
The Testarosa's steering is an unassisted direct rack and pinion design fed through a 3-spoke, leather-wrapped, thin-rim Momo steering wheel with metal spokes and a great classic look to it. The only transmission available for the Testarossa was a 5-speed manual gearbox with a classic gated aluminum housing and twin-plate clutch. Like in Ferrari's F1 cars, the hydraulically controlled clutch combines the operating cylinder and the thrust bearing. It's also a nice amount of detail. You gotta push the shifter down to the left and up for reverse.
So we're going to flip on the pop-up headlamps, as well as the hazards. Power windows are located in the center console. And we're going to check out the exterior.
The Ferrari Testarossa is an automotive icon. Produced from 1984 through 1991, it was one of the fastest road cars you could buy at the time, in addition to being the first 12-cylinder Ferrari to be sold in North America since the 365 GTB4 of the early 70s. With 7,177 units produced, it was also one of the most popular Ferraris. Alongside the Lamborghini Countach, the Testarossa represented the pinnacle of performance, style, and status during the second half of the 1980s. Originally debuting at the 1984 Paris Auto Show, the newest flagship was designed to replace and improve upon the 512 Boxer Berlinetta, which was never originally sold in North America. It featured the classic Berlinetta layout with a rear, mid-mounted flat 12, rear-wheel drive, and space for 2. The name Testarossa, or Redhead in Italian, was originally used on a limited series of Ferrari GT sports cars built in the late 1950s and early 60s, known for their dominance in the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the World Sports Car Championship. While you could interpret redhead in a few ways, it was originally named for the engine's red cam covers, which the new Testarossa also proudly displayed. It set out to improve every aspect of its predecessor, from refinement to performance, efficiency, and practicality. The most dramatic aspect is its width. While front track is wider by about half an inch, the rear track widened by 4.1 inches, with an overall width increase by a little over 5.5 inches. Its wide profile is largely due to the incorporation of a new pair of water radiators located in the rear flanks, just forward of the rear wheels. The wider profile and new staggered wheels also helped improve handling. The 512 only carried one radiator up front. While not only limited cargo space, it also led to complaints of increased cabin temperature due to the plumbing that ran underneath the floor. Thanks to a 2.5-inch longer wheelbase and an increase of 3.3 inches in length, the Testarossa had superior cargo space up front, while adding a bit behind the seats. Height increased by about half an inch for improved headroom. The car is constructed using a tubular steel chassis with cross bracing. Substructures provided extra support for vital components such as the suspension and the engine, while making service access easier. The most recognizable thing about the Testarossa is its body, not only for the iconic and perhaps controversial Pininfarina styling, but its aerodynamic efficiency. Most body panels are aluminum aside from the steel doors, roof, fiberglass fenders, and composite bumpers. The signature side strakes not only look amazing in person, but actually work to channel air to the rear-mounted radiators, which then pass the air upward and out through the ventilation channels in the engine cover and within the rear fascia. The channeled air naturally creates zero lift at the tail with a drag coefficient of 0.36, which allowed engineers to forego the need for outlandish styling and a large rear wing like what was seen on the Countach, which still had a notably higher drag coefficient of 0.42. As quirky as it may look, the strakes are actually necessary to comply with international regulations against having large orifices in the vehicle's body. Interestingly enough, at launch the car came only with one high-mounted driver's side mirror and no passenger side mirror. A passenger mirror was added in the following years. The Testarossa featured smoother, more streamlined styling and all, drastically differing from the 512 Boxer Berlinetta's wedge shape. Since there was no longer a radiator up front, the classic Ferrari grille serves no function aside from style. It integrates the driving, side, and turn signal lighting, while your main headlamps were retracted into the hood. The tail lamps feature continuous louvers which replace the individual lights of its predecessor, finished off with a set of chrome quad exhaust tips. The wheels originally consisted of a staggered set of silver-painted knockoff-style magnesium alloys. The dimensions were unique, 16.3 by 8.3 inches in front, wrapped in specially designed Michelin TRX 240/45 tires, and 16.3 by 9.4 inches in the rear, wrapped in 280/45 tires. Later on, the wheels were changed to a more conventional 16-inch 5-lug design, with 8-inch wide wheels in front and 10-inch wide wheels in the rear, but retained the same 5-spoke star pattern, tested to pull upwards of 0.87 G lateral cornering forces. As far as the brakes, the Testarossa carried 12.2-inch ventilated discs at each corner, with twin hydraulic circuits and servo-assisted with 4-piston calipers. While it didn't come with analog brakes, based on data I've gathered, I'd estimate the car can be brought to a stop from 60 miles an hour at around 120 feet. As far as the suspension, like its predecessor, the Testarossa featured a fully independent double wishbone setup, front and rear, with unequal length control arms, coil springs, twin telescopic Coney shock absorbers, and anti-roll bars. Overall length is 176.6 inches, with a width of 77.8 inches and a height of 44.5 inches, riding on a 100.4-inch wheelbase. Total curb weight that you see here is around 3,766 pounds, with around 60% of the vehicle's weight riding over the rear axle. The Testarossa was powered by an updated version of Ferrari's all-aluminum 4.9-liter or 4,943cc flat 12, mounted longitudinally in line with the 5-speed gearbox, similar to previous iterations. It featured belt-driven double overhead cams on each cylinder bank that now ran off the crankshaft, an improved design over its predecessor which used idler gears to drive the camshafts. The layout consists of a bore and stroke of 82mm and 78mm respectively, a compression ratio of 9.2 to 1, Marelli Microplex electronic ignition, and Bosch KE-Jectronic fuel injection. It was also the first Ferrari flat 12 engine to utilize a 4-valve per cylinder or quattro valvulae design. A dry sump lubrication system was standard. Power for the Euro spec cars include 390 at 6,300 RPM. US spec cars were a little less due to stricter emissions certifications, but they still retained 380 horsepower at 5,750 RPM and 354 pound-feet of torque at 4,500 RPM with a 6,800 RPM red line. This translates to 0 to 60 times around 5.2 seconds, 0 to 100 miles an hour in 11.4 seconds, with quarter-mile times tested around 13.3 seconds at 107 miles an hour. Top speed was a claimed 176 miles an hour. As far as fuel economy, with a relatively large tank capacity of 27.7 gallons and required premium gas, EPA estimates ranged between 10 miles to a gallon in the city and 15 on the highway. The interior of the Testarossa is a perfect example of 1980s style. With a minimalist layout, large aluminum shifter, and hidden radio, there isn't much in the way to distract the driver. Everything that you see is wrapped in supple, hand-stitched leather that still feels soft to this day, and it was available in a variety of color schemes, two-tone options, and even different color carpets. The door panels are completely devoid of any buttons or knobs, as all of your vital functions are located within the center console. Towards the upper portion, just ahead of the door handle, you have a little ashtray on either side. A grip handle aids in closing the door, whereas the locks of the vehicle are manual. The sporty GT-style bucket seats in the Testarossa feature a nice amount of lateral support and good padding, keeping it comfortable for longer trips. Seating adjustments are performed manually via the switches on the bottom portion of the outer seat bolster. The headrests are large and feature the Ferrari logo embossed on top. Overall, they're a nice attention to detail and fantastic addition to a proper GT car. Down below, your leather-wrapped e-brake to the left-hand side of the driver's seat and two chrome levers that correspond to the boot and engine cover. A little bit of all-weather protection on the driver's side floor mat and drilled aluminum sport pedals. Your speakers are also located underneath the dash, and taking a closer look, you'll see the entire dash is also wrapped out of leather, with a standard tilting steering wheel to accommodate taller people and a leather-lined headliner.
So let's go ahead and see if she sounds. Shut her up. Gotta love those electric seatbelt mechanisms. Overall, the Testarossa is a pretty simple vehicle with just your basic amenities like a radio and climate control to make it at least livable as a daily driver while still being dedicated to performance. As you come down the slender center console, you have a digital clock up top, your oil temperature, as well as fuel readout. Across the center console are your climate controls, power mirrors, power windows, not to mention your hazard switch and parking lamps. Small bit of storage, as well as the seat belts that you would then connect to the mechanical actuator. Your radio is located underneath this leather faceplate. Of course, this has been fitted with a modern unit. Alrighty. Go ahead and shut her down. And we'll check out the rest of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and pop the boot.
A notable improvement over the Berlinetta Boxer was the ability to carry more cargo. All in all, space measures a modest 5 cubic feet. While you can surely use any piece of luggage you want, Ferrari also offered a custom set of fitted Schedoni luggage for maximum space utilization.
The passenger seat also has the same manual adjustments as you find on the driver's seat. Little kick plate down below.
The Testarossa was and still is an icon of 80s supercar culture. With a striking yet refined design, it's unmistakable from afar, back from a time where some supercars only came equipped with a manual gearbox and nothing but raw driving pleasure. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at this beautiful 1990 Ferrari Testarossa. Be sure to stay tuned next time, there's a lot more where that came from. Take care everybody.